There are so many ways that I could describe the girl I used to be, but none of them would be correct. I could say that I was a girl who hated her school, someone who had a life that revolved around swimming. She stayed up until 2 a.m. trying to finish her paper that she hadn't started yet. She was too busy spending her life in the water. She was the one who had friends that she loved. You could find her laughing with them on the pool deck or glued to her phone laughing over a moment they had shared. Yet, I don't think that any of these truly capture the essence of who I was. I was a girl with a sparkle in her eyes. I was a girl who was under the illusion that she was happy. Sometimes I wish that I could have basked in the warmth of the facade forever, but the illusion started to fade in the crisp coolness of a fall night. Peals of laughter drift through the house. 2 girls are sitting in a room, glued to their phones. The other 2 sit giggling in a closet a room away. They're anonymously calling the other 2. It's all in good fun, but then they decide it's not enough. After all, it wouldn't be a sleepover without talking to guys, or at least talking about them. These girls decide that it would be a wonderful idea to call and text their best guy friend. It starts out with a little prank calling, but soon it escalates. Late nights tend to bring out the truth, and that is exactly what happened in this cozy room on a frigid night. I've tried to block out what happened that night, but the little details keep coming back to me. It was a game, but this time it wasn't funny. Well, it was to this guy, but not to me. Maybe it was just a joke, but this joke felt more like a bullet piercing my skin. This guy and others had insulted and judged us before, but this was the worst, and he couldn't even do it in person. He decided it would be funny to rate all of the girls he called friends. I came out of my room and saw my friends huddled together on the stairs. "What's wrong?" I asked. Nothing. Did he rate us? Yeah. Now, who wants to go to bed? They started towards the door, but I held out my hand to stop them. Please, I want to know. They looked at each other and shook their heads. It continued on like that for a while, until one of them finally told me. Sometimes I still wish they hadn't. No one that I know has ever wanted to be judged, let alone on appearance. And to be told that I was not good enough for him or for anyone else just crushed me. If I wasn't good enough for someone who I thought to be my friend, then who was I good enough for? Was I worth anything at all? The instant I was informed of that rating, overwhelming sensations washed over me. Tears welled in my eyes, and I looked away, not wanting to show any weakness. I ran into the bathroom and buried my head in my hands, wanting and needing to sort through everything I was feeling. But in that moment, I couldn't. My friends found me and tried their best to comfort me, saying that it didn't mean anything. What they didn't realize was that it meant something to me. I cried myself to sleep that night, and that was when I finally was able to think for myself. It was petty middle school drama that shouldn't mean anything to me. I should have been able to push it away and move on, but I couldn't. This was something that I could not change about myself, and something that I had always been self-conscious about. I wished and wished that I could push the comments to the back of my mind. For the longest time, I tried as hard as I could, but it never worked. To this day, I still think about that day more often than I should. I will never be able to forgive him. Some part of me still thinks that maybe he was right. Maybe all of this was actually my fault. I will never forget, and I think that these thoughts will haunt me wherever I go. He never apologized for that moment, but instead laughed as though it was acceptable, because he really did think that it was acceptable. This is what bothers me the most. Yes, the rating makes me angry every time I think about it. But what is worse is the fact that anyone was rated at all. Why is it acceptable to judge women based on their beauty, but not men? This notion is something that has always bothered me. It is something that I will always think about. It decreased the sparkle in my eyes, starting the chain of events that eliminated it entirely. This stereotype of beauty and its correlation to women's worth is what made me realize that I will never be good enough.